Good day, viewers. Welcome to yet another edition of D-Stake. Today's D-Stake will be an extension of where we left off with regards to economic nationalism. Remember, when I spoke about economic nationalism, we spoke about indigenous industries. We spoke about making sure that local indigenous industries, either through the addition of local content or the empowerment of indigenous people, to make sure that our entrepreneurs are well positioned in the national economy. Today, I want to talk about the issue of importation. Most countries in the sub-region and other developing countries are working more towards import substitution strategies, whereby they try to promote local consumption and local production to reduce importation of items into the country. Well, as you're aware, the Gambia has 2 milling companies. One is already operational, the other one will soon be on the production line. So it baffles me why the government of the Gambia will equally promote importation of flour into the country. And to make matters worse, if we import flours in the market, we are at least helping lose something that we're getting through the milling companies. The milling companies have a byproduct which is called husk. The husk is a primary produce for chicken feed. So if we really want to have poultry self-sufficiency, where the Gambia relies on local production of poultry, we need milling companies, not importation license and importers. Therefore, I want to go further into this issue and understand the rationale behind why government is doing what they're doing. Today, I have the honor to invite Mr. Mohamed Jagana, the president of the Chamber of Commerce, to come and shed light on this and what's the position of the Chamber and his personal views about this. So, Mr. Jagana, I welcome you to D-Stake. You're the first guest. Always D does a monologue, but for some reason today, he wants to have someone else's take. So I can't call this show today D-Stake. It's going to be our take. So I want to know your take on this issue, especially the importation of flour and as it relates to growing the industrial base of this country.
First of all, Mr. Njai, thanks for having me on the show. I think the past issues you have raised very important and pertinent matters that we need to discuss at a national level. As a country, if we want to prosper as a nation, we need to move away from importing to processing and production, whether it's flour, wheat, cement, or other agricultural byproducts. And I think this is something that we need to discuss at national level, both at the private sector and the government level, to see how are we going to reposition Gambia from depending hugely on an import-based mechanism to a process whereby production would happen, industrialization would happen, so that indigenous Gambians can also get involved in the process.
Well, I think that's a good idea, but my biggest issue is we're talking about a country with a youthful population who are highly unemployed, and our skill levels are so low. So having industrialization in effect in our economy will help ameliorate this problem, because in industries we don't need highly skilled people, we need power. So therefore that will help in terms of getting people to have at least a decent livelihood. But importation, on the other hand, doesn't support employment. It supports transactions, trading. So don't you think the government of the Gambia is sending mixed signals? Because if we are saying Gambia open for business, we're looking for investors, not traders. And investors are medium to long term. I mean, you look at someone who's opening a flour mill, for example, Gambia Milling Company. These people most likely have invested over $20, $25 million in the economy. And now, if you're promoting importation of a product that these people are going to produce, what message are you sending to would-be investors who are yet to come into the country?
Mr. Njai, I agree with you. And it's not only about the labor or the resources they would employ, but the auxiliary services that would have to be provided to support those factories and industries would create eventually skill-based entrepreneurs in this sector. Today, if you have a milling or a production industry, they need support, they need maintenance, they need servicing. Eventually, these are opportunities for young Gambians to look into, to create their own businesses to provide services to these industries. And I think both from the Chamber of Commerce point of view and my own personal point of view, I think we should encourage more of production-based industries rather than just import-based industries.
I totally agree. And if you look at the Ministry of Trade and you look at their acronym MOTI, Ministry of Trade, Industry and Employment. So what's critical here? Industry, employment. But it's counterproductive what the government has been involved in the past month and a half or two. And I don't think it's too late for them to revisit their position, because their position is going to make this economy flat. Flat in the sense that, yes, we're going to have flour coming in, but they also need to realize the flour that's coming in from Turkey and EU, one, is highly subsidized. So the real price is not going to be felt. And number two, you're in the market. We know what importers do. They suppress their invoicing. Once their invoicings are suppressed, the valuation at the custom levels changes. Who benefits? It's not the consumer, because it's not passed on to them. So normally, prices are sticky, even though when importers have the luxury of under-declaring their goods. To the contrary, if we're having local production of flour, now it's going to benefit, the banking sector is going to benefit, the communities are going to benefit, and like you said, support services are going to benefit. So the trickle-down effect serves the nation better relative to just having containers of flours coming into the country. But to make, what's more important is protein is a source of our livelihoods in Gambia. Our fish stocks are dwindling. We know that meat is so expensive for the average Gambian household. We are trying to discourage the importation of chicken legs. We are trying to discourage the importation of poultry meat. Why? Because we have vast land, we have enough space, and it's not a highly, it's not a highly specialized skill to do poultry. Therefore, it's a good thing for Gambia to be self-sufficient in poultry. And feed meal is something that's very important in the poultry business. So the byproduct of this flour can be a precursor for us to have a poultry industry in this country. So if we kill the local production of flour in country, equally we are killing our dream of someday being self-sufficient in our poultry stock. So the government of the Gambia needs to think, needs to revisit its current position of empowering importers to really play a significant role in the market. I think Gambia as a country need to worry more about what I consider import substitution strategies, whereby we reduce import, make our balance of payment figures better, and also add value to the economy and the people of the Gambia.
Senya, I do agree with you, and I think what we need to look at, there are 2 points of views here. Some of it is my personal view, some of it is from the Chamber of Commerce. At the Chamber of Commerce, we support every industry, be it import, export, or production. However, I think we should give more emphasis to production-based industries, be it in milling, agriculture, or anything that would provide jobs for the country, that would reduce our import and foreign exchange dependency, that would also create jobs around subsectors of those industries. For example, we should just look at our neighbors in Senegal. Today, Sedima is one of the biggest chicken feed producers in this region. But Sedima is benefiting from 2 million factories in Senegal, GMD and the other one, I can't remember the name. But these are policies that the Senegalese government have put in place to control the importation of certain products because it's been manufactured locally. And we, the Gambia, should look into that so that we can attract more investors to see Gambia as a destination where I can invest for production. However, if we don't, it would discourage people coming into the Gambia. Because what's the point? When you are going to compete with an import that is being subsidized either from the US or from Europe, whilst your local manufacturing is dying, it doesn't make any sense. And I totally agree with you.
Well, see, that's why I've been doing this series, and this series has been emphasizing on the issue of economic governance. Economic governance is making sure that the right policies are in place for the benefit of the greater good of society. I will at least contact the Ministry of Trade. I want to know their rationale. I want to know their position on this issue. And I do hope they will find it within themselves to revisit this policy, because this policy is punitive to the economy and is sending the wrong signal to would-be investors. The investors who are already in country and have invested so much are having a displacement problem. They cannot just uproot their factories and leave. But if they were able to uproot their factories and leave, they will leave Destination Gambia. And this is why Destination Gambia is unattractive. In the past, we've been talking about political instability has been the problem why investors were not coming. But now I think it's the mixed policy signals that are being sent that's making Destination Gambia very unattractive. And it's incumbent on us, the citizenry, to tell the government what we think about some of their policies. We expect more from them, but nonetheless, we will find it to go out there, talk to them, and with the view that they will listen, because this is something that's very critical to the medium to long-term development of this country. We need to talk about it. The issue is not about flour. The issue is about promoting local industries. If Gambia is serious about moving to the next level and becoming a stable middle-income country, we need an economic base that's home-driven, not through containers, but through buildings, infrastructure, factories, and skilled labor in country to make sure that Gambia goes to the next level. And I want to know what this government is doing about it, and I want to know what's the justification of this government to allow importers who are adding very insignificant value to this economy. If you look at 52,000 metric tons that would have been imported year-round into the country at $800 is a bag, you take 20% out of that as import duties, you're talking about $3.46 million. That's what the importer is adding to the local economy in terms of their importation of flour directly by way of excise duties. But equally, the 52,000 tons, if produced in the Gambia, would have paid in excess of $5 to $6 million in additional services. So what do we want as a country? Because once we have that milling company creating 52,000 metric tons of flour, the byproduct would have created another industry. So there's a multiplier effect, that ripple effect that we have now had an opportunity cost. We have lost it. Why? Because we're promoting something that's just a transactional value, and it's called importation.
Mr. Njai, I don't think it's late. We still have time and opportunity to look into this and readdress it. And I think your engagement with the Chamber of Commerce, the Ministry of Trade, and the key players in this industry would trigger the discussion for it to be escalated. And I think what we need to focus on right now today, what do we want for Gambia? Do we want a Gambia that consumes or a Gambia that produces? That is my take.
Well, I love your take, and my take is, like I said, I will talk to the Ministry of Trade, I will talk to the existing milling companies, and I want to know their position. My take is very simple. What's best for Gambia is what I will advocate. What's best for Gambia is what we want. We want a Gambia that moves from a transactional base, that's business as usual, to a transformational base. The transformation we want is to create a country that is not only trying to be self-sufficient in what they do, but at least add value to its local content. Its local content is the human resource stock that we have that's laying idle and not doing much and needs to do much. So the government of the Gambia, I do hope you're listening. Ministry of Finance, I do hope you're listening. Ministry of Trade, I'm hoping you're listening. Minister of Agriculture, this is something you should not support because it's counterproductive to your efforts of making sure that poultry self-sufficiency in Gambia thrives. Importation of flour kills the idea of poultry self-sufficiency. On that note, I'll try and talk to others and see what's their take on this, but this was our take on D's take on the issue of flour importation in the Gambia, and I do hope, and I do sincerely hope, that the government reserves this decision, because this decision is counterproductive to what we want as a nation, and going forward, this needs to cease and desist. Importation is of last resort, not of first resort. Thank you so much, and this was D's take. Mr. Jagana, it was nice having you on my platform, and I do hope that the words of wisdom you have exuded here today will add value, and the policymakers will listen to what you have to say, because you've been around, you know these sectors very well, and you know the impact of what we're doing in the overall macroeconomy of this Gambia, and it's incumbent on all of us private, public, and non-state actors to make sure that the going concern we call Gambia doesn't suffer because of one's incompetence or one's greed, or lastly, one's lack of knowledge to do what's right for the Gambia. So thank you, and your last words.
Thank you, Mr. Njai, for having me. And if we want to prosper as a nation, we need to make sure that indigenous Gambians are involved in the key economic sectors of this country. And we need to look into indigenization and local content. Thank you for having me, D.
Well, on that note, bye-bye to all. Thank you.